Hello, my name is Christopher Renstrom, and I'm your weekly horoscope columnist here on Astrology Hub. And this time, I wanted to share with you my horoscope highlights for 2025. "2025 begins with Mars traveling backwards in the sky in the zodiac sign of Cancer. Mars turned retrograde in the zodiac sign of Leo at the end of 2024, but at the beginning of 2025, Mars will have regressed back into the zodiac sign of Cancer, and that's where it will be from January 6th until February 23rd. Now, this is going to be a bit of an awkward feeling. Mars is the planet of gumption and drive in astrology. And basically, if Mars sees something at once, Mars gets up on its feet and leaps after it. It won't take no for an answer. So Mars is the planet of gumption and drive. It's the planet of, I want that, and I want it now. And that's what Mars expects to do. However, when Mars is retrograde or traveling backwards in the sky, it's lost that gumption. It's lost that drive. All of a sudden, it feels like it can't keep that energy moving forward. It feels fatigued. It feels tired. It might even feel like wanting to go in the opposite direction. This is fascinating because Mars is turning retrograde in Leo. It goes into Cancer. Mars is retrograding or moving backwards in two zodiac signs that are associated with the parents. Leo is associated with the good father because of its connection to the summer, and Cancer is associated to the good mother. So with Mars moving backwards through these signs, you may feel in some way that your authority is being undermined, that people aren't listening to you in the way that you're used to or accustomed to them listening to you. Maybe your way of directing people is to be more supportive, to be more sympathetic, to be more in their corner, to say, I know what that's like, but let's see what would happen if we went and did such and such a thing. You know, that you want to be in their corner and help them to be the best that they can be. What's happening at the beginning of January is this feeling that the people that you're trying to help out or that you're trying to support are perhaps acting in ways that are insupportable, or in ways that whatever you do to try to help them out, it's not good enough. They're not interested. They're not interested in listening to you anymore, or they maybe even take you for granted. And so there might be a sort of spike in anger that's starting at the beginning of January, and that begins to build, in which you may feel in some way betrayed, like you had supported this person, you were behind this person, and now this person isn't coming through on their end and maybe is taking you for granted or even blaming you for things. This is where you may find yourself having to make a switch from a maternal type of energy, which is Cancerian, to a more patrician type of energy, which is Leonine. And so you may feel like you have to all of a sudden become the dad in the situation. And what does becoming the dad mean? Maybe you have to become more disciplinarian. Maybe you have to put your foot down. Maybe you have to tell someone to get over it in some sort of way. And you may be surprised and feel bad that you have to get tough like this, but the people in your life who are depending on you or taking direction from you or who are turning to you for support may also be very surprised with, where did this come from? I thought you were more nurturing. I thought you were more caring. I thought you were more supportive. And you may find yourself having to say, I am supportive, I am caring, but I'm not indulgent. I'm not going to indulge you in your confusion or your self-pity or your refusal to learn from your past mistakes. I'm going to become more directional. I'm going to become more like, okay, these are some of the things that you need to face, that you can't just blame other people for your situation, that you have to take responsibility. So there's a bit of a tough love quality that's going on with this Mars retrograde in Cancer. And it won't happen overnight. It will, again, be gradual. You'll feel like people aren't listening to you in the way that you feel that they should be listening to you, that they're not respecting you in the way that you feel they should be respecting you. And this forces you to get a little bit more, as I said, patrician. The result is that you're going to find people respecting you more and actually liking what you're saying and liking what you're doing. You may not like it. You may feel very uncomfortable with this, but it's something that once introduced, you may sort of consider as maybe adding to some of your repertoire. In other words, that you may consider taking a stronger hand in the way that you direct people, or may consider not being as openly or unconditionally supportive. You don't have to be like that for the rest of your life, but during this period of time, from January 6th until February 23rd, it's probably going to be a good idea if you want to go and get results. Now, on January 21st, we have the first of 4 major Pluto aspects that will be taking place during 2025. Pluto has recently entered into the zodiac sign of Aquarius. It sort of dipped its toe into the pool at the beginning of 2024, but Pluto really committed to entering into Aquarius at the end of 2024, and that's where we experience it at the beginning of 2025. And if you have been part of the planet during 2024, and I'm sure that you have been if you're tuning into this broadcast, you know that the world at the beginning of 2024 is not the same as the world is now at the beginning of 2025. And that's what happens when you have a modern planet change zodiac signs. Modern planets are planets that were discovered after 1781. And those planets are Uranus, which was discovered in 1781, Neptune, which was discovered in 1846, and Pluto, which was discovered in 1930. These are the planets that were discovered in the modern age. This is why they're called the modern planets. But because they move so slowly through the sky, they're very powerful. They set down trends that may be slow to recognize, but then over a period of time, they gain energy and momentum, and they basically color the way that we look at the world. So with Pluto now entering into the zodiac sign of Aquarius, the emphasis of Pluto in Aquarius is basically to transform society as we know it. Okay, now that sounds rather grand, and that sounds rather big and even larger than life. But that's really what Pluto is going to be doing for the next 24 years. It's going to be transforming society as we know it, from top to bottom and bottom to top. It's going to do it in the way that we socialize with one another in person, the way that we socialize with one another technologically, the way that we relate to each other in space, the way that we relate to each other as all sharing the planet, the way that we relate to each other in the social group, because this is what Aquarius rules over. Basically, the maxim of Aquarius is society is only as good as the people in it. All right? And this is something to keep in mind. Society is only as good as the people in it. You may have noticed that I left out the idea of leaders or authorities. And that's because Aquarius is much more focused on a group of people as a whole. Aquarius does have a hierarchical side, but its focus is not on the leaders. It's not on those in authority. Those are those who are in charge. In fact, the Aquarian view of that is that if they're not helping society become the best that it can be, then they're the problem and they're the ones getting in the way. The modern ruler of Aquarius is Uranus, the planet of revolution and change. And there is this feeling with Aquarian energy that if you are in charge of some section of society, whether you're a president or whether you're a parent or whether you're a supervisor or a governor or the head of your block watch party group, whoever you are in that position of authority, your commitment is to people. Your commitment is not to yourself. And the more that you are committed to the betterment of your neighborhood or your community, whatever your community may be, or your municipality, or your state, or your country, your commitment to the betterment of all the people in it, this is something which is almost like an Aquarian obligation. As I was saying before, that can sound a little highfalutin. That can sound a little bit like, wow, okay, but what does that have to do with me and my regular life? How it has to do with you in your regular life is the way that you relate to other people. And particularly when we're talking about Aquarius, people outside your family, okay, people outside of your inner friendship group. How are you relating to the person in your neighborhood? How are you relating to your client, the person you work for, the person who works for you? How are you relating to people that you see on the street, maybe every day, at maybe Starbucks or something where you all get your coffee, or maybe on a bus route, or maybe even someone that you've never met before? How do you relate to another person? How do you see the humanity? How do you see yourselves as being part of a larger group, which is society as a whole? With Aquarius, every little action that takes place between two people is going to spread wide and far like a ripple effect. So Aquarius has a lot to do with the way that you relate and share with other people. The first major aspect that will be taking place with Pluto in Aquarius is a Pluto-Sun conjunction on January 21st. And so what this is going to have to do with is really, it's going to be making a very broad social statement. On January 21st, we're going to look around our environment and we're going to say, are we happy with the society that we're living in, with the world that we're living in? Now, obviously, no one's going to be like, oh, yes, I'm completely happy with it. No one's like that. We all have different perspectives. We all have different points of view. We all have different ways of seeing things. We all have different priorities, right? Priorities, I think, is an excellent word for that. And so when we look around our world and we see the things that we're dissatisfied with or we're unhappy with, what are we doing on a personal basis to make the world a better place? As I said, that might sound a little highfalutin with this Sun-Pluto conjunction that's taking place on January 21st. But the question really is, what are you doing to make the world a better place? Step away from, the noise of polls and politics and influencers and people in charge and all these sorts of things. Step away from that, okay? And ask yourself personally, what are you doing to make the world a better place? And what can you do to make the world a better place? You don't have to do something large or abstract or whatever, but maybe it's, I don't know, some very simple exchange with another person, being there for a person when you're having a conversation, helping someone out with a situation, being a good neighbor, being a good colleague. What are you doing to make the world a better place? That's the big question. That's the big challenge that shows up with the Sun-Pluto conjunction on January 21st. April 23rd brings a Sun-Pluto square. And so that question is going to be, what are you doing to share with other people? What are you sharing about yourself with other people? Now, that's going to feel a little bit like a challenge, like, well, I don't have any time to share with anyone else, or I don't have resources to share with someone else. And why am I always sharing? Why don't people share with me? Sort of thing. But it's this idea of share and care, this idea of this Sun-Pluto square that's taking place. Because with the Sun-Pluto square that's taking place between the zodiac signs of Taurus and Aquarius, this is really about social welfare. Okay, you always take social whenever you're dealing with Aquarius, because Aquarius is society, the group as a whole. But then you bring up welfare, okay, which is a very Taurian concept, which is, looking after my own welfare or the welfare of those that I care about. Okay, but what about social welfare? What are you doing to share and care and commit to the commonwealth, the common good? This is going to be a very pertinent question, a very pertinent issue on April 23rd. On July 25th, we have a Sun-Pluto opposition. And this is going to reinforce a lot of me against the world propensities, a lot of me against the world tendencies. And it may show up particularly with Leos during this period of time, in which you feel like no one understands you, no one's interested in you, no one is heeding what you have to say. You may feel like you don't have respect. You may feel that you're fighting a losing battle with trying to win consensus or approval or to change popular opinion in some way. Popular opinion can be people on your project at work. Popular opinion can be people's minds about what to do with the city park or the open public space. But this Pluto Sun opposition on July 25th will really heighten the me against the world. It's a very polarizing type of aspect. And whenever we're dealing with polarizing types of aspects, it's always a good idea to ask yourself, what am I projecting onto the other side? If I feel like that I'm not being recognized or respected, what am I projecting onto the other side? That they're an authority that doesn't care about me, that they're people who are jeering at me, that they're people who really have no concern what's going on with me. And when you project like that, it's always a good idea to ask yourself how you can humanize the projection. A lot of times when we're projecting onto someone else, they stop being a person and they become a stand-in for what might be our own insecurities or what might become our own anxieties or what might become something that is an object of anger that we project at someone. And it's always a really good idea during opposition planet energies to try to re-own the projection, to take the projection back and to ask ourselves, okay, what little anxiety or insecurity in the back corner of my psychic closet ran crazy and ran rampant and ran over and decided to, take itself out on all sorts of people. Why am I getting so angry at people who are from a different culture than mine or a different religious base belief than mine, or a different political party than mine, or who see things in a totally different way? Like, why am I so riled up about this? Why do I see them as the enemy? Why do I see them as the oppressor? So whatever you can do to sort of try to re-engage the humanity in a person, to remember that everyone eats, sleeps, drinks, and poops, and that no one is above that or disconnected from that, to try to reintroduce that sense and feeling of humanity again. This is something that would be a good idea to do on July 25th. And then on October 24th, we have Pluto in Aquarius squaring the Sun in Scorpio. And this may impact Scorpios very strongly, very powerfully during this period of time. And this may be a family issue, a very personal issue that is moving towards some sort of resolution in some sort of way. It's something that might have come up in the last year and a half-ish. And something that you felt very much some sort of outside figure, some sort of outside force intruded on something that was very private to you. And you're very angry at this. You might be seeing the Aquarian energy as a more trespassing or intrusive type of energy. Like, this is none of your business. This is my business. Maybe some things were said about a loved one or things were done to a loved one that was hostile in some way that you really didn't like, and that it brought in a sort of bureaucratic arsenal or something along those lines. Because Aquarius can be associated to bureaucracy or to outside systems. Just that idea, outside systems, agencies in which you're not a person anymore and you're just a file or something to be looked at. And so that may be something that really comes up here. And and you may be struggling to settle this, maybe settle accounts with an agency or a bureaucratic error. Maybe there was an agency error or a bureaucratic error, and you're trying to right that wrong. That might be something that might be pertinent around the October 24th period, especially for Scorpios, and something in which you're moving towards a resolution of that, certainly towards the end of the year. Now, the other thing to look out for, I sort of jumped ahead there, but that's because I wanted to hit every one of the Sun-Pluto aspects that are going to be taking place this year. The next aspect for us all to look at is Venus turning retrograde on March 1st. And Venus will be retrograde on March 1st until April 12th. Now, Retrogrades are a period of time in which a planet is moving backwards in the sky. Now, the planet isn't actually moving backwards in the sky, because if the planet were moving backwards in the sky, we'd all be in a lot of trouble, okay? Like gravitational fields would be thrown off. No, it looks like the planet is moving backwards in the sky. Now, when we go out and look at the nighttime sky and we look up there and we're like, it doesn't really look like it's moving backwards in the sky, like sort of like hanging out there. Back in the day, back in ancient times, before electricity and things like that, when people looked at the sky a lot, okay, when people looked at the sky with the frequency that we look at our iPhones or our Androids, all right, people actually looked at the sky and they would notice that a planet, that had been moving had stopped and was now moving backwards. And that was seen as a retrograde. That's based on an optical illusion, based on the fact that the Earth is moving faster or slower than the planet that is being seen. Okay, that's basically what it is. So when a planet was moving backwards in the sky, it was seen as operating in the opposite fashion that it does when it's moving forward, okay? So a Venus, named after the Roman goddess of love and beauty, is about love and beauty. When she's moving backwards, she's the antithesis of love, and she is the antithesis of beauty. What's going to exaggerate this effect is that Venus has turned retrograde in the zodiac sign of Aries. Aries is a Mars-ruled sign. And there's a very strong Mars theme, by the way, to 2025. But Aries is a Mars-ruled sign. Venus is not comfortable when she's traveling through the zodiac sign of Aries, because Venus wants to travel through a sign that is complementary to hers. Okay, so Venus is very happy, for instance, if she's traveling through a Jupiter-oriented sign, because Jupiter is a benefic just like Venus. Or Venus is always delighted when she's traveling through like a Mercury-based sign, something along those lines, something that bring out the love and beauty qualities of Venus. When Venus is traveling through a Mars-ruled sign like Aries or Scorpio, she's said to be in detriment. And instead of bringing peace and love and beauty, she has a tendency to bring confrontations, scuffles, arguments, combat, disharmony, and a lot of ugly moments. Okay, so what I've often seen happen with people who have like Venus retrograde in a chart, or Venus's retrograde natally, is Venus becomes the target of a lot of animosity. Okay, Venus, instead of being, the target of beauty and adoration, and everyone's like, "You're Venus, it's so beautiful," she actually attracts a lot of animosity. And that animosity could be hostility, it could be envy, it could be jealousy, it could be accusations that you're flirting with my spouse or trying to break up my family or get away from my good china. I could tell you were coveting it. All of these sorts of things can come out when Venus is moving backwards in the sky. What also happens when Venus is moving backwards in the sky is that she's no longer exhibiting her peaceful influence, okay? Her peaceful influence has been revoked. It's been taken back. So that's why Venus can be associated to feuds, battles, combat, disruptions, disputes when she's traveling backwards in the sky. And that backwards period, as I said, is March 1st until April 12th. And this is going to impact people born under Aries. This is going to impact people born under Taurus. This is going to impact people born under Libra. And this is going to impact people born under Scorpio. What you want to pay attention to here is, are you somehow becoming an object to be fought over? Are you somehow attracting, people's accusations of being covetous or flirting inappropriately or something along those lines? So you're going to want to watch out for that during this period of time, because you may find yourself in completely innocent situations as far as you were concerned. You might have been talking to a best friend's husband, in the kitchen during a party, and you're having a talk like you always had, and all of a sudden, he lunges forward and tries to kiss you, and that's the moment your best friend comes in. Okay, those are the sorts of things that can happen when Venus is retrograde, when you're like, look, it was nothing. And then the best friend is like betrayal and like, totally like sides with her husband against you and blames you. And you were the one who, those are the things you want to watch out for when Venus is traveling backwards in the sky. And if you watch out for them, that's always a good thing because that means that you can avoid them. Now we come to the spring season of eclipses, or rather, I should say, the eclipses that are taking place this year are taking place in spring and fall. They don't always take place in those seasons, but they are this year. The first eclipse that we have is the eclipse on March 14th, and this is a lunar eclipse. And the lunar eclipse is taking place in the zodiac sign of Virgo. So this is going to impact Virgos very powerfully, and it's also going to impact people born under Pisces very powerfully. Now, because we're dealing with the mutables here, it will probably also have an effect on people born under Gemini and people born under Sagittarius. But the sign being impacted the most powerfully by this lunar eclipse is Virgo. So if you're born under Virgo or you have Virgo rising, and in a lot of my references, it's not just the sun sign, it's the sun sign and the rising sign. I may not remember to say all of that, but if you're hearing like, okay, it's going to impact Virgo, think Virgo sun and then Virgo rising. Okay, so these are the people who are going to be impacted. When we're dealing with a lunar eclipse is an unraveling sort of energy, all right? It's not an energy that is holding things together or holding things fast. What happens with a lunar eclipse is that it unravels, it unspools. And so there may be a feeling of that's going on in your life if you're born under Virgo, Virgo rising, or Pisces, Sagittarius, or Gemini, is that something in your life is unraveling and it's falling apart. A good way to sort of judge what it is, I mean, chances are if it's unraveling and falling apart, it's unraveling and falling apart, and you're like, okay, I know what it is, okay, which will be your experience on March 14th. But another way to work at a lunar eclipse is to sort of go back 6 months in your mind. So, subtract 6 months from March 14th, and let's just say that you're going to be somewhere in the month of September, late August or September. Ask yourself what was going on during that period of time, because chances are what you're experiencing in the lunar eclipse of March 14th is the result of a decision or something that you began in that September period of time of 2024. Maybe you started a relationship, maybe you started a job, maybe you transitioned from one situation to another, maybe you're trying to get something up and going. So if it unravels or if it falls apart, if let's say you started a relationship and there were a lot of problems, but you were hoping it would come together. Let's say you started a job and you were out of your depth and you were hoping that it was going to come together. If it doesn't look like it's coming together, and what I'm saying is like there has to be a real almost being trumpeted from the heavens, it's coming together. Like, unless it's really obvious that it's coming together, if it's really more the experience of problems becoming more difficult, challenges becoming steeper, then this is the time to let it go. This is the time to let it unravel. This is the time to say, you know what? I gave it my best shot with this relationship. I gave it my best shot with this job. I gave it my best shot with this situation or this course or this class that I signed on for, and it's just not doing it for me. Okay, it's just not coming together. All right, then let it go. Let it go, because this is what the lunar eclipse is supposed to do. It's supposed to sort of say, you know what? Some seeds when they're planted bloom, and some seeds when they're planted don't. Okay, so what you want to do is focus on the seeds that are sprouting and blooming, and, next on the ones that aren't. Okay, that can sound a little bit harsh, especially if I'm referencing a much more personal or emotional situation. But it's important to sort of understand, to recognize when you've held on too long to something that's not working out. Okay, and that it's time to let that go. And that, by the way, also goes for things like disputes and disagreements, or things that you've been procrastinating or putting off. This is the period of time where it unravels, it falls apart. Maybe circumstances that are unraveling and falling apart force your hand. They force you to act. Instead of getting angry at those circumstances, maybe thank them for, finally getting you to let go of a situation that should have been let go a long time ago. These are the things to keep in mind during this lunar eclipse period. On March 29th, we will have a solar eclipse in the zodiac sign of Aries. And this is going to be very powerful because this starts a whole Aries infusion of energy throughout all the horoscopes. Okay. A solar eclipse is a very powerful energy surge, for lack of a better way of putting it. It kind of releases this energy surge through the horoscope. Now, we're ending an eclipse cycle. What's an eclipse cycle? An eclipse cycle is basically 2 years where you have eclipses taking place in two partnering signs. And for the last year and a half or so, we've had eclipses in the zodiac signs of Aries and Libra, signs that are opposite one another. And people born under Aries and Libra have gone through extraordinary and dramatic changes in the past 2 years. Go ahead and ask them. They'll tell you all about it. So what's happening with this last eclipse in the zodiac sign of Aries is that it's really releasing a lot of powerful Aries energy into everyone's horoscopes, all right? And whenever there's an energy surge, sometimes the energy surge can be too much and it shorts things out, okay? Or sometimes it can be too much and it overwhelms. Or sometimes that too much is the very thing that pushes you forward or moves you forward or picks up your energy again. So this solar eclipse in Aries that's taking place on March 29th, this is going to really have a very powerful impact on people born under Aries or who have Aries rising, in which you really have to commit to this new direction, this new path that you're taking in your life. Chances are you committed to it before, but if you're still sort of holding out, or if you're one of the undecided, this becomes very decisive and this moves you absolutely powerfully forward. But what's going on here with this solar eclipse is that it can signify a radical or dramatic change in life direction. If you're born under Aries or have Aries rising, if you didn't experience that radical change in life or life direction a year ago at this time, in the spring of 2024, you're definitely experiencing it right now. But then we can always have experiencing it again right now. Okay. And this is going to be a very empowering for people under Aries. It's going to be a bit of a challenge for people born under Cancer, for people born under Libra, and for people born under Capricorn, because all of a sudden there's this emphasis of energy in a part of your chart that does not sit comfortably with the rest of your horoscope naturally. Okay, so there could be this feeling of like, oh, all of a sudden, like we have to like pay attention to this area, which was probably more often than not the area that you were really focusing on. All right. But if you were born under a fire sign like Leo and Sagittarius, or let's say you're born under Gemini or Aquarius, this is going to be a really wonderful feeling, all right? What's happening to those signs? Let's take in the Aries, but let's also bring some focus to the Leo. Let's bring some love and focus to Sagittarius, as well as to Gemini and Aquarius. You guys have sort of been under the thumb for the past couple of years, for a while, actually, and where it just really hasn't come together for you in terms of all the different pieces or all the aspects of your life coming together for you. This eclipse in Aries, which builds an energy through the spring and the summer, this is going to be really particularly fortuitous for people born under Leo and Sagittarius, as well as people born under Gemini and Aquarius, because it's going to feel like things are coming together, that you are being redeemed, that you were right to have believed the things that you believed. You were right to have fought for the things that you fought for. You were right to have held out for the things that you held out for. And you were right to have like really gone back and forth and wrestled with your mind and really tried to figure out what would be the right course of action. All of those things are going to be validated and supported as we get into the spring and the summer of 2024. The solar eclipse, which takes place on March 29th, is going to be followed very quickly by Neptune entering the zodiac sign of Aries on March 30th. And I can't wait to tell you all about that, but I can't, not yet. I will in a couple of moments, but I have to deal with one other planetary aspect that's taking place. So remember that there's a solar eclipse on March 29th and that we have Neptune entering Aries on March 30th. Okay, that solar eclipse is in Aries. Neptune enters Aries, March 29th, March 30th. Okay, we want to hear about that, but we have to go back a couple of steps. The reason we're going back a couple of steps is because there is this really, I don't know how else to put it. It's gorgeous. It's lovely. It's wonderful. I mean, just thinking about this aspect makes me smile. And it's a wonderful, like, is it once in a lifetime aspect? I don't know. It's just going to be a real long time until we have this aspect again. Let me go ahead and say that. It's just going to be a real long time until we have this aspect again. This aspect rules over the following dates: February 27th, March 14th, April 4th, and April 20th. Okay, so these are the dates again: February 27th, March 14th, April 4th, and April 20th. During this period of time, we have this gorgeous Uranus, Saturn, Neptune sextile that's taking place. Okay, Uranus is in the zodiac sign of Taurus. It's winding up its stay in the zodiac sign of Taurus. Saturn and Neptune are winding up their stays in the zodiac sign of Pisces. So on February 27th, you have this beautiful Uranus-Mercury sextile, okay? Uranus-Mercury sextiles like this are things coming together of a transactional nature, okay? Let's say you're buying or selling during this period of time. This February 27th shows the deal going through, the item that you were selling being purchased. If you're auctioning something, there's going to be a bidding war. If you're bringing a project or an endeavor to completion, it's something in which all the pieces line up just right. And you're looking at this and you're marveling. You know, how many times do we look at an endeavor or a project or a venture and we see that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed, and it really couldn't be more perfectly realized than it's being realized right now. Okay, so this is, very quickly, let me point out, this is not a beginning action. This is not a starting something up energy, not at all. This is bringing something to a conclusion. This is bringing something to fruition. You know, if you wanted to write a book, this is when you have written the book, not wanting to write the book one day. No, this is having written it. So this is tangible. This is conclusive, and this is fulfilling. This is basically bringing things in for a landing, all right? So this February 27th Uranus-Mercury sextile, which is going to benefit people born under Taurus and Pisces, but it's also going to benefit people who are born under Cancer, Virgo, Scorpio, and Capricorn as well. All right, so everything that I just said about that Uranus-Mercury sextile, it's going to apply to all of you guys. This is followed by a March 14th Uranus-Sun sextile, where again, there is this feeling of fulfillment, but also you being recognized. Okay, so maybe you were one of 13 people on this project, but on March 14th, you might be singled out. You know, you might be like, and, you know, the person who did a wonderful job dotting those I's and crossing those T's with a little bit of a flourish was Maxine. Okay, so you know, somehow it's, you know, Maxine, you come forward and like, oh, I just want to do a little filigree when I was dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Okay, this is what everyone's, Maxine, you're magnificent. Okay, so this is that period of time. April 4th is a Uranus-Saturn sextile combined with a Uranus-Mars sextile. This is having completed something that was laborious. This is having completed something that was really hard to get done. Okay, so I don't know, maybe it's like you finished your PhD, you finished your house repair, you finished I don't know, 3 years of audits or something like that. I don't know, something that was really tedious, something that was really time consuming, something which really took a lot out of you and your life. Again, the signs affected by this are Taurus, Cancer, Virgo, Scorpio, Capricorn, and Pisces. Okay, this is when you kind of get to collapse on the finish line. You're like, done. You're over. You brought it to a completion. You finished this venture. You finished this project. You finished this assignment. You finished this challenge. You finished this commitment. That took a long time to get done. That was really, really hard to do. That was arduous. Okay, this April 4th is when it comes to an ending. And is it a good ending? It's a magnificent ending. It's a wonderful ending. You're going to be, not only are you going to be happy to be over it, okay, but you're going to be so like, I did it. I now have my PhD or my title or my accreditation or credits or those big letters behind my name, sort of thing. And so this is going to be a wonderful, wonderful feeling. And then on April 20th, we have the last of these Uranian sextiles. We have a beautiful Uranus-Venus sextile that takes place on April 20th. And this brings a nice reunion between you and someone else that you had been on the outs with, or there had been your relationship or association had been plagued by misunderstandings, or it may be simply that you're tired of fighting and disputing, and you're like, can we put an end to this? And the other person's like, can we put an end to this as well? Yes, let's go ahead and do that. And instead of like, feeling resigned or like you had lost something, you both start maybe laughing because you have this shared history of having made life for one another so difficult for such a long period of time that the idea of making life nice for one another is kind of like makes you almost giddy, in a way. I mean, yes, people can put down their differences, and instead of feeling, like they failed or they lost or they conceded, they can put down the differences and they can recognize in an adversary or an opponent someone who during that period of time has gotten to know them a lot better than maybe their own intimate or best friends have. And there can be a sort of solidarity. I mean, I'm not saying you have to air kiss and be besties, but there can be a solidarity from that shared experience and a relief and a happiness in finally having settled your differences. This February 27th, March 14th, April 4th, April 20th, this feeling of really having completed and fulfilled something, and this being a wonderful celebration of you, this is something that will be impacting people born under Taurus, Cancer, Virgo, Scorpio, Capricorn, and Pisces. Now, back to Neptune entering Aries on March 30th. Okay, we had this eclipse, the solar eclipse on March 29th. And then we have Neptune entering Aries, the zodiac sign that we just had the eclipse, on the following day. This is not an easy one to describe, okay? This is not an easy one to describe. I'm going to be honest and frank with you here. This could be a sudden revelation, a sudden exposure, along the lines of pay no attention to that man behind the curtain, maybe along the lines of Wizard of Oz, where, Toto sort of takes the curtain to one side and they see that the wizard isn't this great and powerful figure, but a man tinkering behind the machinery. So there may be some sort of exposure or some sort of like great reveal that takes place during this period of time. A solar eclipse can be very dramatic in the way that it changes the direction of the life path. It can also be connected to lights out in heaven, which is literally how the ancients understood solar eclipses. because the sun in the day suddenly was darkened by the moon passing in front of it. So there can be this lights out on a situation that impacts on a large scale. And then Neptune entering the zodiac sign of Aries. Now, Neptune has a very different planetary character than Uranus does, for instance. Uranus is the planet of revolution and change. Uranus comes into a sign and it upsets everything. It turns everything upside down. It knocks the game board over and sends all the chess pieces flying in all sorts of different directions. When Neptune enters a zodiac sign, what it does is that it glamorizes it, okay? It glorifies it. If you're used to watching those old movies where they would put the gauze over the camera, to show the romantic lead, looking effervescent and beautiful, that's Neptune. Okay. Neptune is almost kind of this cosmic gauze that gets put over a vision to make it more appealing, to make it more effervescent, to make it more compelling, more something that we cannot live without. So when you have Neptune entering the zodiac sign of Aries, and this is really fascinating because we've had Mars, which was retrograde in Leo. At this period of time, Mars will be moving forward in Leo during this period of time that Neptune enters Aries. And so what you have here, well, simply put, is glamorization of men. All right. Now, that might sound like glamorization of men. Does that mean like bigger biceps and more six-pack abs? What it's really about is that Aries is ruled by Mars. The ruling planet of Aries is Mars. Mars is named after the Roman god of war. And Mars was said to be the planet of men. I don't know if you remember the 90s book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, sort of thing. And so when you have Neptune entering Aries, it glamorizes the male ideal, okay? And that could be an ideal of beauty or an ideal of athletic performance. But it can also be this idea that men are better. Men are going to take care of things. Men are going to be on top of this thing. We're better off in a man-ruled world, sort of thing. And this might be something that appeals mostly to men, for instance. Okay, that sounds good. I could see men signing on for that. But it becomes glamorized. It becomes mythologized. And so what we might have here is a lot of mythologizing around men. These could be men in public office. This could be men in your life. This feeling like men should be in charge. They wield the best authority. They know what they're doing. Let's hand over everything to men. And this may be an impulse that comes out through Neptune entering the zodiac sign of Aries. And Neptune is going to be in Aries for the next 14 years. So the next 14 years is not going to be like glamorizing men and men can do no wrong and all these sorts of things. This next 14 years is really going to be a journey, an odyssey into the psyche of men, okay? Because men are feeling very wounded right now, okay? Maybe it's because high expectations are being loaded on top of them and they don't feel like they can match them. Maybe there's a division between alpha men and beta men want to be alpha men, they want to be tough guys and whatever. So all of this thing of like, being a tough guy, being in charge, saying what you think when you think it and using foul language because it's virile. It shows you're tough. It shows that you're rough. It shows that you're ready. All of these things are going to become more so as Neptune goes into the zodiac sign of Aries. And it's doing it not to get us all to sort of sign on for, a John Wayne movie or something along those lines. It's doing it so that we can examine and understand what's really going on with men. And as I said, there is a wounded quality that's going on with men. There's a lot of anger that's associated with men. There's a lot of rage that's associated with men. This makes perfect sense. Aries is ruled by Mars. Okay. There can be chauvinism. There can be this feeling like men are being overlooked, or they're being taken for granted or taken advantage of. So these are the sentiments that are going to come out. And we're going to start seeing people sort of take men's side in some places. And we're going to see people take the opposite side to men in some places. Aries is the zodiac sign of the hero. So it's this feeling like only I can solve this. It's coming down to me. I'm at the baseball. I've got a baseball bat, and we're in the ninth inning, and we're tied or whatever, and it's coming down to me. I'm holding the bat, and it's up to me to hit that home run. Or it's up to me to score that long shot score. So there's a lot of this emphasis that's going on, and it may be even appearing with men that you know in your life who think that they should be hitting these home runs or making these outlandish scores, or only they can solve the problem or take care of a situation. And there are going to be some people who are like into that. That's great. That's wonderful. And there are going to be some people who are like, it's not all on you. It's on us as a group, or it's on us as a team, or talk to me, I'm your partner here. I'm tired of like having to clean up after your messes and things like that. So there can be a lot of this energy that really starts to begin during this period of time. So Neptune will glamorize the worst aspects of Aries, which are what we would call the thug aspect. Okay, the brute, the person who I yelled louder, I showed bigger muscles, or I'm a bully. Neptune can bring out those qualities, but Neptune can also bring out the more noble qualities of Aries as well. Think of the Knights of the Round Table and their chivalric code to protect the weak, to see that justice is done, to not fights out of anger or retaliation, but to do what is just, to do what is right, to serve the greater kingdom as a whole. These were the chivalric, the heroic ideals of Aries can be established here. And it's not just exclusive to men, by the way. These were ideals that were also shared fascinatingly by female samurais who came to be around the time of King Arthur and the Knights, okay? And it's like a 11th century or 12th century Japan, female samurais who were well-versed in battle to defend themselves, but were also pledged to be just and to be good and to fight for the weak. So you can see on one hand, the lower qualities of the Aries, which is the bully or the person making fun or delighting at the humiliation of someone else. Or you can see the more noble qualities of the Aries, someone who helps the person who's been humiliated, picks them up off the ground and comes to their defense, or gets them to feel better, or to protect them in some way. So all of these qualities are going to be showing up, qualities that we associate with men, but they're not exclusive to men. But I do feel like a lot of material, a lot of planetary transits are taking place on male psyches, dealing with men feeling like they have to be this mythologized male. So what's fascinating is to see Saturn follow quickly, in astrological terms, on the heels of this Neptune. Saturn also enters Aries, but it doesn't enter Aries until May 24th. Neptune enters on March 30th. Saturn enters on May 24th. And Saturn is the great debunker. Okay, so what Saturn's doing is okay, we have this glamorized, this mythologized, virile male, ideology thing that's going on, but does it really stand up? Does it really stand up to testing? Does it really stand up to scrutiny? When times get hard, when times get difficult, does this energy man up, or does it turn around and run away or blame other people? And this is something that Saturn entering Aries is going to do. And that's why I'm kind of saying it's impacting male psyche, men as fathers, men as sons, boys, children, the sort of man that you want to grow up and be. Neptune, as I said, will glamorize it. Saturn will debunk it, because that glamorization needs to be debunked. Do you have boys who are parading around as men? Do you have things that are being espoused as virile and masculine and in charge that aren't that heroic or aren't that noble, or don't have any character? It's and this is the story of the Saturn and the Neptune energy that will be conjoining, that will be coming out during this period of time for all of us basically to see. Now, if you're born under Aries, that Neptune entering your sign may bring a sense of yearning for things that you don't have. All of a sudden feeling like your life might be empty and that you really want to be somewhere else in your life. And that can be a kind of at sea feeling, something that might make you kind of distracted around the people that you know. With Saturn entering right after that Neptune can come an obligation or a responsibility or a duty that kind of locks you into place, may feel bigger than what you can handle. Part of you may be like, oh, this is good because I was kind of like confused and meandering before, but now I've got a responsibility or an obligation or a duty. So that's going to get me to focus on that. That's a good thing. Aries is always up for a challenge. But at the same time, it may also feel like you've been saddled with a responsibility or duty, and it's dragging you back into having to accept these burdens and not really being true to your vision of yourself or where you want to go. So this period of time, this March to May, is going to be very intricate and very complex for people born in the zodiac sign of Aries. It's also going to have that same charge for people born under Cancer and Libra and Capricorn. It's going to make you really question the path that you're on, your relationship to responsibility and obligation. Do you want to be where you are in your life? Or conversely, are you trying to keep someone in your life who doesn't want to be there? Under the rubric or the auspices of, we have to stay together. We have to stay focused on a challenge. So the debunking of the great challenge, the debunking of the great obstacle may be a dawning realization that you've signed on for an obstacle or a challenge, which may in reality just be an exercise in futility and isn't going to deliver in the way that you want it to deliver. How does a challenge deliver, or mastering an obstacle deliver? I just answered it. You answer the challenge and you rise to the occasion of the challenge, or you master an obstacle. It delivers. You did this. You got to the other side of it. What happens when that obstacle or that challenge ends up taking longer than you had anticipated, ends up being a bigger deal than you had first thought? This can bring out a lot of insecurity and a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of apprehension. And for some people, that can be, okay, that's it. I didn't sign on for this. But for the cardinal signs, and the cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, it's not easy for the cardinal signs to say, I can live without this. The cardinal signs will take that on with all the purpose of their being, because there's a trust. There's a trust that even an exercise in futility is going to pay off, whether it's in paying your dues, building your character, the eventual sense of accomplishment that will come with having mastered it. This is something that may be very strong and powerful for each of the cardinal signs. This is not going to be the experience of people born under Leo and Sagittarius, any more than it's going to be the experience of people born under Gemini or Aquarius. What's going to happen is that the Neptune and the Saturn end up either trining those two signs. It trines Leo and Sagittarius, or it sextiles the air signs that I just cited, Gemini and Aquarius. And so where the cardinals, for instance, may feel like they've been put upon with a burden and obligation, something that they're having doubts as to whether they can do this or whether it's leading anywhere. For the air and fire signs that I just listed, Leo, Sagittarius, Gemini, and Aquarius, this is actually going to become an incredibly galvanizing time. This is going to become a very energizing time for you, very exciting time. If you're born under Leo or Sagittarius, you're going to feel very inspired. This Neptune becomes a personal vision. It becomes a personal aspiration, something that really inspires you to do better than you've ever done before. If you're born under Gemini and Aquarius, what this Neptune and the Saturn's going to do is that it's going to make you see the world as fuller and larger than the way that you saw it before. It's going to bring personalities into your life who are signing on for what you're selling or for what you're promoting or for what you're advocating. And it's actually going to lift you in terms of status, or lift you in terms of your playing field to something that's better. So this is where Saturn and Neptune are actually going to work to the benefit of these other zodiac signs. Now, if you're born under the zodiac sign of Cancer, or you have Cancer rising, your yay, it's great to be me day is going to be June 9th. Okay. This is the celebration day, the celebratory day for people born under Cancer or who have Cancer rising, because this is when Jupiter, the planet of good fortune and higher purpose, enters your zodiac sign for a year-long stay. In fact, Jupiter will be in Cancer from June 9th of 2025 until June 30th of 2026. Jupiter in Cancer is a wonderful thing. All zodiac signs love it when Jupiter is moving through their zodiac sign, because it's said that Jupiter would bring good fortune and higher purpose to whatever zodiac sign it comes and visits. It's kind of like Santa Claus visiting your house, all right? So when Jupiter enters the zodiac sign of Cancer, this is going to have a very powerful restorative feeling for people born under the zodiac sign of Cancer. People born under Cancer who have Cancer rising have really had a grueling last couple of years, okay, with Pluto winding up its stay in your opposite sign of Capricorn. It's been really rough. It's been really tough, and it's been very grueling. Now, does Jupiter entering Cancer make it all better? No, not right away, but you're going to feel that restoration. And restoration is a really important word. It's a word that describes a period of having been fatigued, of having been weakened, of having been drained, maybe a period of drought, physically or metaphorically, a period of time of being under siege, of being oppressed, under the heel. And so when we move into a restoration, that heel has been removed, that oppressive figure has been removed. The rains have come and the drought is no longer there. The fatigue has been well rested. It's been restored. There's been a good night's sleep. There's been a good month's worth of night sleeps. There's been a good year's worth of good night sleeps taking place. It restores. Whenever you wake up from a good night's sleep and you're like, oh, and the day is wonderful, and you feel like you can do just about anything. It's a great, relaxed place to be. This is Jupiter entering the zodiac sign of Cancer for all of you born under Cancer. Now, Jupiter is the planet of good fortune, and he does bring good things. And occasionally you can have a lottery win or something like that with Jupiter traveling through, but that's not really what Jupiter does. What Jupiter does is that it will bring a good opportunity. It will bring a lucky break, a golden opportunity, you getting recognized, you getting invited to something. Some sort of blessing is really the best way to think of Jupiter traveling through your zodiac sign. It blesses you for that period of time that is there. Gemini had Jupiter in their sign for the last year, from basically May, I think, or June-ish 2024 to this period of 2025. And now from June 2025 to June 2026, Jupiter will be blessing Cancer. Okay, it's moved it over to the zodiac sign of Cancer. And so this is going to be very restorative. This is going to be very empowering. You also are going to be protected. Jupiter is named after the king of the gods in Roman mythology, the one who governs, the big kahuna. And like in our solar system, Jupiter is a big kahuna planet. It's the largest planet in our solar system. And because it's the largest planet with the most powerful gravitational pull, Jupiter draws into its orbit all of the asteroids, the meteorites, the space debris, the things that would have harmed the planets that are inside Jupiter's orbit, like Mars and the Earth and Venus and Mercury. All right. So all of that space shrapnel or that space wreckage or, things left over from the Big Bang, okay, they go all colliding into Jupiter, or drawn into Jupiter's orbit. And so Jupiter shields the smaller planets. That's us, okay? Jupiter shields the smaller planets from what could be disastrous, from what could be a debacle. And Jupiter serves a similar function in astrology. Jupiter shields or protects that area of the chart where Jupiter shows up. So it's not just like good fortune and a lucky break. Nothing's wrong with that. Those are good things. But what's also nice is that there's a protection. If you're going through a difficult time or a trying period, there's a protection. So Jupiter entering your sign on June 9th could be an elevation or promotion in some regard, some sort of recognition. This is going to affect Cancers, but it's also going to affect all the water signs. So it's going to impact Scorpio and Pisces. So this is really nice because with our switch from watery energy to fiery energy, it's nice to still have a water spot, a water hole, for lack of a better way of putting it, a watery energy available through what can be a very fiery and airy summer, which we're coming up on, what could be a very arid type of summer. It's nice to have this really beautiful Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter in Cancer is also really good news for people born under Sagittarius. Why? Because Jupiter is the ruling planet of Sagittarius, all right? So even though Sagittarius doesn't really have a Ptolemaic relationship to Cancer, it doesn't conjoin, it doesn't oppose, it doesn't square, it doesn't sextile, it doesn't trine. By virtue of the fact that Jupiter is your ruling planet is your patron saint, your corporate sponsor, your life coach, and your den mother, all wrapped up into one. People born under Sagittarius and Pisces are born under Jupiter, your children of Jupiter. Jupiter is your sire. It's your protective, it's your ruling planet. So Jupiter is exalted, meaning most celebrated in the zodiac sign of Cancer. And what that has to do with is abundance, the idea of abundance. All right, because Cancer is associated to the season of the summer here in the Northern Hemisphere. We always relate the zodiac signs to the seasons here in the Northern Hemisphere. And from a Northern Hemisphere point of view, because astrology originates in the Middle East, and that's how the seasons were experienced. Northern Hemisphere experience of seasons take place in the area that astrology originates, Western astrology originates, and that we practice. So the zodiac signs are very much integrated, very much entwined with the seasons. So Jupiter in Cancer is an exaltation in Cancer because this is a season of abundance, of good things. And so as a Sagittarius, believe it or not, that's what you're going to be experiencing, is this abundance. And it can be an abundance in a monetary sense. It could be an abundance in terms of the riches of your friends and your lovers and your relationships. It can be an abundance from the simple fact that life is going your way during this period of time. And it can be a good thing. But it can also be very protective, particularly in areas where you're dealing with being beholden to other people. Let's say you owe someone money. Jupiter in Cancer may cancel that debt or forgive the debt. Let's say someone that you love is going through a very difficult time. Jupiter in Cancer gives you the fortitude, gives you the ability to be there for someone going through a difficult time. And it allows the two of you to almost be protected under the auspices of the Jupiter. So it's a wonderful placement, not only in terms of like abundance or a feeling of abundance or a perspective of abundance, but also a feeling of strength when you're going through a difficult or a rough time. This Jupiter in Cancer gives you that reassurance, like a mother's love or a father's pat on the back, something that makes you feel protected and makes you feel sheltered. And this is something that people born under Sagittarius or Sagittarius rising will be experiencing through the year. Now, no sooner does Jupiter enter the zodiac sign of Cancer, then it forms a square to Saturn in Aries on June 15th, and Neptune in Aries on June 18th. And again, this is going to be a kind of conflict between Cancerian energy and Aries energy. All right. Aries energy always feels urgent. Okay. Like I have to do this and I have to do it now, or it's going up against an obstacle or it's going up against a challenge. Cancerian energy, because of its relationship to the summer, is more laid back. All right. It's more like I'm not in anyone's hurry, and it's more kind of like laid back and let's see how developments unfold. A lot of times people can get annoyed with that. It can be sometimes even cancers can get annoyed with that. Okay, let's see how things unfold. But what it speaks to is Cancer is ruled by the moon, and the moon moves in cycles. There's a lunar cycle to the moon. Things grow large and fill and expansive, and you have a full moon, and then it loses light and goes back to a new moon, and then it begins that cycle over again. Cancers believe in cycles, that things take place in their own time, and that we're better off registering that time than we are in kind of trying to dominate or master it, trying to move it along unnecessarily. So cancers, when they're confronted with man up Cancer, or be more urgent Cancer, or be more Aries Cancer, they have a tendency to withdraw. They're like, whoa, where are you going with this energy? It's like, I don't need this aggravation, and so Cancer doesn't buy into that urgent, take care of it, dominate type of thing. What Cancer buys into is an understanding that everything happens in its own time, and there are natural developments to things. Cancer believes in, as I said, the lunar cycle, that things go around in a cycle, and that if you follow that cycle, if you follow that innate sense of your own timing, then you're doing things in the time that's right for you, and you're not overriding time. So this could be a conflict. Now, that might sound a little bit like, okay, that was interesting, but a little bit abstract. But the conflict that could happen here with the Jupiter-Saturn square is that if you're on the water side of it, like you're under a water sign or an earth sign, you may feel like you're being confronted with move it along or rise to the occasion or be, tougher than you are. And that may go against how you feel yourself naturally. Put your confidence and faith in what you feel is natural to you. Don't try to be someone that you're not. Don't try to be fiery. You're born under earth or water during this period. Don't try to be fiery. It's not gonna work. All right. So stay with your time. Stay with your physical sense of things. Stay with your emotional sense of things. If you're born under fire or air, you may feel with this Jupiter in Cancer like it's trying to stifle your energy, like it's trying to slow it down. It's trying to douse it. It's trying to, put you to sleep or make you more complacent. And so you may struggle, more against it. And the thing is, if that purpose, if that gumption, that drive, if that's working for you, great. You do you. If you're born under fire and air, you do that. But don't go and insist that other people keep up with you in that way, because you may be missing something that they're seeing, or you may not be giving enough respect or appreciation to what their contributions are or what they have to say. If the urgency and the immediacy and the results orientation is working, that's wonderful, but let it work for you and don't try to impose it on other people. So what you can have with the Jupiter-Saturn square is a one-upmanship between the two energies. And if you engage in that, that's going to be a conflict and it's not going to end well. But if you kind of change it to moving in your own lane, then that's good. Okay, you don't have to agree on all the points. You don't have to be in one another's vehicles. But if you're in your own lanes, then that can create a kind of cooperation that doesn't have to get into fighting or conflicts or anything along those lines. Now, Uranus leaves the zodiac sign of Taurus on July 7th. This is good news for people born under Taurus, because that brings to an end all of the upsets and the rude awakenings that you've been experiencing since 2018 and 2019. All right, Uranus is like gone. Okay, so you can be like, goodbye, Uranus. Taurus doesn't do well with the planet of revolution and change because Taurus doesn't like revolution and change. Okay, Taurus wants stability and it wants consistency. Now, the other fixed signs, which are Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, have also been impacted by Uranus's kicking over the game board and sending all the chess pieces flying. And so again, Uranus departing Taurus will be a reprieve. It will be a relief for you guys. This is something that you'll really enjoy. Uranus is now going to go and be somebody else's problem. But what you have as a result of Uranus having gone through your sign are some very radical changes, are some very different shifts in life direction. Your life, how it looks now, is very different than it looked in 2018. And I dare say many of you may be sort of happy about that. That it wasn't easy in 2018 and 2019. It certainly wasn't easy in the 2020, 2021, 2022 period. But as Uranus was winding up its stay in Taurus, things made sense. You could see why you went through the things that you did. Or even if you didn't know why you went through the things that you did, you could see what you're coming out with. And it's of value and it's something that's useful. What does that mean? That means that Uranus is somebody else's problem. And that goes to Gemini. Okay. Uranus is now going to be spending 7 years, except it retrogrades at the end of the year, but it will be spending basically the next 7 years in the zodiac sign of Gemini. So all of that revolution and change, the changing of the goalposts, the changing of the rules will be, descending upon Gemini. And that's a sign that's really going to enjoy it. Okay. There are certain signs that don't like revolution and change. We just talked about one, Taurus. And there are certain signs that come alive under revolution and change. And that's Gemini. Okay. Geminis love it. All right. So Uranus is going to do a lot to speed up and accelerate your life. Now, typically, when Uranus enters a zodiac sign, it knocks over the game board. It sends all the chess pieces flying. It turns things upside down, inside out. And on July 7th, that's what Uranus is going to start to do as it enters the zodiac sign of Gemini. Now, if it were just Uranus entering Gemini, then yeah, there would be good reason to be like, ooh, like, I hope it doesn't knock too many chess pieces off, or I hope it doesn't turn my life upside down too drastically. I mean, that would be a very legitimate worry. That would be a genuine concern. But what's going on here, and it's really quite extraordinary, is that Uranus is entering Gemini, and no sooner does it enter Gemini than it sextiles Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So in other words, Uranus entering Gemini isn't a single event. It enters Gemini and it forms sextiles, which are benevolent aspects to Saturn and Aries. So this wild energy has somewhere to go. It's kind of like lightning. Lightning can strike a building and, the building collapses, or the top of the building collapses, or something along those lines. But lightning strikes a lightning rod and it's channeled down into the ground. Lightning appears as electricity, which is put into wiring and things like that, and it animates things, So not only did I show my sheer ignorance of electricity and how it works, but what I'm trying to show you here is that in a sextile with Uranus to the Neptune and to the Saturn, it's like an electrical current. It's going to animate things in your life, all right? All of a sudden, radical ideas that didn't fit, you can see where they fit. When you share a notion that would have been seen as crazy before, people are kind of getting it. They're like, that's a really good idea. Let's do that. Okay, so it's not, zapping your life. It's coming into your life and it's illuminating your life. It's like turning on a light switch. Okay, this Uranus entering Gemini. And so what you're going to feel, Gemini, is that the wind is at your back and that you're kind of like ready to make up for lost time. But this is also going to be something that Aquarians feel. And Sagittarius, where Uranus going through Gemini, your opposite sign, could have been very upsetting in terms of relationships and things like that. All of a sudden, it's redirected. It doesn't upset relationships, but it brings in more relationships, different people, different alternatives, different options into your life. Okay, so Uranus entering Gemini, when it forms the sextile to Saturn and Neptune, and that will be there from basically July 22nd to the end of August. And these dates that are going to be very powerful are going to be July 23rd, August 8th, August 11th, August 26th, and August 28th. These are going to be wonderful days for people born under Gemini, Aquarius, Leo, Sagittarius, but guess who else gets added to the mix? Libra. All right. Libra was struggling because it had Neptune and Saturn in its opposite sign. Whenever you've got Neptune and Saturn in your opposite sign, that's a struggle, that's a challenge, that's a polarization of the energies. And so Libra was struggling with that. But once Uranus enters Gemini, which is an air sign like Libra, the Gemini by sextile breaks up that opposition and it redirects it. So where Libra might have been feeling like it was on its back foot, like it was struggling with a disadvantage in March and May, once we have Uranus enter Gemini in early July, this gives support to Libra as well. And so what's going to happen during this period of time, this July 23rd, for instance, we have a Sun-Uranus sextile between Gemini and Leo. It's going to be very powerful for people born under Gemini and Leo. This is basically whatever you say goes, pretty much. And it's not like, here's my wish and obey my wish and obey my command. It's not that. It's just that if you're born under Gemini or Leo for that July 23rd, you can see how something works and you can communicate that and someone gets it immediately. Or let's say you make a valuable introduction and that person's so impressed with meeting you that they're going to go and introduce you to someone else. So what this is doing is that this is furthering your energy. So this is something that's connected to July 23rd. On August 8th, we have a Uranus-Mars trine in air. And this is wonderful for working collectively with other people. It could be working in a collaborative relationship or partnership, but it also could be working with a group or a department. Everyone is working with their best thinking caps on, and they're working for the greater good. August 11th is this extraordinary Uranus-Saturn sextile, and that could bring a wonderful reformation. Okay, that could take a situation that was really a bad situation or a beleaguered situation, and it could introduce some very real reforms. People might have said, oh, it's always going to be like this. This agency is always going to be like this. Just bureaucracy is always going to be like this. This ruling body or this way of life is always going to be like this. The system is corrupt. On August 11th, with this wonderful Uranus-Saturn sextile, it could bring in a reform. Someone saying, let's try it this way. Let's do it this way. This is going to be different from what we've done. Let's do this. And people might be like, no, you can't. And then they realize, oh, yes, you can. And not only yes, you can, but this is good. This is a really good idea. Like, why didn't we do this before? That will be August 11th. August 26th is a wonderful Uranus-Venus sextile that's wonderful for romance. We haven't spent a lot of time with romance, but that's a really good one for romance, would be August 26th for those signs that I've been talking about. Because also it involves Venus forming a trine to Neptune on the same day. So if there's ever a time that you want to get together with people, socially or fun or, dating or looking to be with someone, it's going to be August 26th. It's a beautiful time. And then this comes to an end on August 28th when we have a Uranus-Neptune sextile. So whatever was that little piece of reform that we experienced on August 11th, it leads to something bigger on August 28th. And in other words, it gains momentum, more people come on board, This was a wonderful way that you solved a problem in this one situation. Let's go apply it to all these other situations. That will be August 28th. So we really have this acceleration of energy. If you're born under fire and air signs, this summer is going to be absolutely wonderful you're going to literally feel like you're on fire. You're going to literally feel like the wind is at your back. And what's exciting is that you're activating this. It's not things being done for you or good things being showered on you. You're activated by this. You're inspired by this, and you're absolutely raring to go. And you're going. Now, once we start to get into like September and October, essentially the autumn, over the summer, we have retrogrades going on with Neptune and Saturn. That doesn't really mean much because they're really more sitting still. But once we get, for instance, on September 1st, Saturn will retrograde back down into Pisces. Once we get to October 22nd, Neptune will retrograde back down into Pisces. And then on November 7th, Uranus re-enters Taurus. What this does is that it deaccelerates. Okay, that acceleration, that verb, that enthusiasm that you're feeling over the summer, bit by bit, it begins to slow. It begins to drop off. All right, and be ready for that. It's kind of like you have this burst of energy, or your business is doing really well during this particular quarter, financial quarter or something, and now the energy is dissipating, and it's not going to do as well. It's a change in the astrological weather, just like a change in seasons. That's what's going on here. It doesn't bode bad things. It just says that you're not going to be feeling as pushing forward as you did before. So you want to keep those dates in mind. You don't want to overstretch. You don't want to overreach. You don't want to keep pushing with the expectation that you're going to get the same results. You want to step back. And you want to sort of just go into a more relaxed mode, okay, of what's going on here. You don't need to be pushing. You don't need to be keeping up the momentum, because these planets that I just talked about with you, air and fire signs, are going to circle back in 2026. Okay, so this is just a period of time that you just leave things alone. Now, for people born under the water and the earth signs, the summer might have been a little bit, like wasn't really working for you. Or it was sort of hard to manage. And with the return of Saturn and Neptune to Pisces, the return of Uranus to Taurus, this is going to give you an opportunity to sort of finish up, to sort of tie up loose ends in your life. You got a taste over the summer of how much your world's going to change or is changing. And you got a sense that maybe the old ways of practicing things, the old approaches, aren't going to do it. All right. And so over the summer, you might have been like hit with that in a very sort of shocking and bewildering way. And you might have felt either like duck and cover, or, like I have to shelter myself from this. Or you might have felt like you were trying to run and keep pace, and you just didn't have the knowledge, the resources to keep pace with it. It's almost like being a transfer student and put into a different school or a different class. And the way they're doing things is very different from the way you're used to doing things. So where the fire and the air signs were coming to life over the summer, you were feeling perhaps bewildered and like you were running to catch up, and you weren't getting it. These retreats, these retrogrades, Saturn coming back into Pisces in September, Neptune coming back into Pisces in October, Uranus coming back into Taurus in November. This allows you to A, catch your breath, and B, figure out what you need to do to play this new game that's emerging. Do you need to go back to school? Do you need to brush up on skills? Are there certain biases that you've had? Are there certain approaches that you always swore was always going to work, and now you realize they don't work anymore, or you've gone as far as you can go? So this period of time from, basically the end of November to December of 2025 into January, not only gives you an opportunity to catch your breath, but to figure out what you need to do. And being born under a water or an earth sign, you'll figure out what it is you need to do. You guys always do. You're outfitted for living in this world. You're outfitted for living with the vicissitudes of this physical existence. You guys learn to adapt, and you guys learn to survive and ultimately to thrive. But before we get there, we've got some autumnal eclipses. We have an eclipse on September 7th, which is a lunar eclipse again in the zodiac sign of Pisces. And so that's another sort of falling away type of energy. And I think that that's playing into what I just described for the water and the earth signs, because this is going to impact the water and the earth signs very strongly. This feeling that I have to figure out how this new world works. I have to figure out how this new game is played. Of all of you, Taurus is going to be really good at adapting itself to it, because Taurus has had Uranus going through its signs since 2018. So Taurus is like, okay, new rules. Okay, right. Bring them on. What's the next set? I've been dealing with that for the last 7 years. All right. So Taurus is really, equipped for this, but the other earth and water signs are as well. But what's going to be really interesting here is the September 21st solar eclipse. This September 21st solar eclipse will be taking place at 29 degrees Virgo. It's the last degree of Virgo. And whenever you're dealing with a final degree, it really marks the end of the way things used to be done and the start of something new. Okay. That can either be a smooth transition or it can be a rude break. What's been going on here, particularly for people born under Virgo and Pisces, because this eclipse takes place, it's triggering the Saturn and the Neptune energy. There's been maybe this feeling over the last couple of years of postponing or putting off something that you know that you need to do. And this eclipse is going to say, okay, you need to do this now. You need to resolve this. You need to finish this. You need to end this. You need to make the final break in some way, because it's at the 29th degree. So we're talking about an ending. We're talking about a completion. And because Saturn has been in Pisces opposite Virgo, for instance, or Saturn in Pisces just in Pisces, there can be a lot of postponement. There can be a lot of putting off for tomorrow what I could do for today. And if you're Pisces, you might be telling yourself, oh, I'm just waiting things out, And if you're Virgo, it's just kind of like, I'm not really ready to I don't know if that's the best way to go. Well, this eclipse is going to be like, time's up. It's kind of like you're taking a test, and it's that moment in taking the test when the teacher says, time's up, put your pencils down, and that's it, and you can be like, but I didn't get to this essay question or whatever, but time's up. Okay, and that's what this eclipse is signaling. It's time's up. And time's up can be a really good thing, because we can languish. We can linger. We can get lost in postponements, procrastinations, and waiting for the right time to show up. And sometimes time takes a hand in things. And so this time's up can be a sense of finality, of ending. Hopefully you're behind the decision to end, or you're acting proactively to end. You're not letting it be done for you. I should rephrase that, because sometimes we're in situations in which we don't have any say over it, and we have to wait for circumstances to align just right. And this can also be associated with this eclipse as well. So circumstances may align just right that release you from a situation, and that's it. But it really is wrapping things up. Okay, again, this is not a beginning energy. You don't want to begin anything in the autumn. Things are ending. They're coming to an end. You're wrapping things up. So that this December 20th and this December 23rd, where we have this Neptune Sun square, this Neptune Venus square, this is saying goodbye to the old life, And how do we say goodbye to the old life? I mean, if we're the ones moving on, we're saying goodbye to people that used to be with us, and we're moving on to another city or state or country or whatever. And so we make that point of saying goodbye. You don't be like, I'm not good with the goodbyes, bye. No, you take that time. You take that time to spend with friends you won't be seeing as often, or loved ones that you won't be seeing as often, or colleagues that you fought the good fight with, and now you're moving to a different company. You take that time to say goodbye. And that's what's being reserved by this squaring energy. If you're the one being left, you're not going on to something else. It's someone you knew, someone you loved, someone you cared about who's going on to something else. You make that a wonderful goodbye. You make that person feel good about moving on to something else. You make them feel encouraged. You make them feel supported because they're moving on to a very important chapter or place in their lives. And that goodbye can be melancholic. You might have, maybe it's an empty nest syndrome or the end of a wonderful friendship or collaboration you had with someone. But you want to end on that good note because the person may be leaving your life, but you're in your life and you want to be proactive in your life as well. So yeah, someone may be leaving, and that's always going to feel like added item in the subtraction column, in the minus column. But it's also important to be there for people at their departures and be there for people when they're embarking on something new and maybe you're not going with them. It's really important. It's really special, and even though that may weigh heavy in the heart, it can also give a sense of love and fulfillment like no other experience. It can be a really, really beautiful thing. So that's kind of the note that I see 2025 ending on. My last couple of notes that I want to make is, remember that I talked about Saturn moving back into Pisces, Neptune moving back into Pisces, Uranus moving back into Taurus. Well, in 2026, Neptune re-enters Aries on January 27th, 2026. Okay, so Neptune comes back into the zodiac sign of Aries and is there for good. Saturn re-enters Aries on February 14th, 2026. So Saturn comes back into the zodiac sign of Aries and is there for good. And finally, Uranus re-enters the zodiac sign of Gemini on April 26th, 2026. Which means that Uranus comes back into Gemini and is there for good. So the summer, is really a preview of that, so that when these planets return to Aries and Gemini in 2026, what you want to have in mind is this is the new world, okay, that we're moving into, and where you want to be proactive about it. If you're a fire and air sign, you're ready to go, And if you're an earth and water sign, you've had some time to get used to what that world's going to look like. And at first, it may feel familiar and a little uncomfortable, but given time, you're going to find that this opens up whole sides of you, aspects of you that you've never really appreciated before, that you've never really recognized before. And it can be just as exciting, and it can be just as thrilling for you as it's going to be for the air and the fire signs.
Well, friends, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Want more? Make sure you're signed up for our Cosmic Insider newsletter. It's free, delivered every Monday, includes links to all the episodes, plus you'll get a heads up on the cosmic weather ahead. Just go to astrologyhub.com/insider. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to help us reach more astrology lovers like you. And finally, follow us on socials. You can find us on Instagram, X, TikTok, or Facebook for daily astrological guidance. See you soon.